Hi everybody, today we're going to unwrap the small plaster forms that we made. They've been sitting here for 2 days, so they're quite hard. You can see they're real solid now, and the containers, you should be able to use an X-Acto knife. This is a box cutter, and you can cut through the tape to make tearing the box off a little bit easier. And be careful not to cut toward your hand. And the cardboard box will be a little bit damp, and you can peel it off. Some of it's going to stick to the plaster, but we can scrape that off. So we're going to peel off the cardboard, and the parts that are sticking you can scrape with a knife or a loop tool. This is a loop tool from ceramics, so I can just scrape off the damp cardboard and clean up my plaster that way. Or I could use just like a butter knife from the kitchen and see how well that scrapes off the cardboard. So you can clean up the plaster, any extra that's seeped under the flaps here. And you can get that, all the cardboard cleaned off of that, so you can use the sculpting tools on it. If you've poured into a paper cup, I've just made a couple little cuts here on the paper cup. Comes off much cleaner than the cardboard box. So there's a solid piece of plaster to sculpt, and here the one in the plastic container. I've made a couple of cuts in the container, and again that comes off very cleanly. So it's a little more work to clean off the cardboard. This is the part that ran under the flaps. So a little more work scraping the damp cardboard off, but with a little effort, you'll have a nice clean plaster shape to work with. So same thing if you've poured your big plaster shape, just take it out of the box or out of the container. But as far as tools for carving the plaster, a sharp knife, this is the box cutter. This is a ceramic tool that's like a knife, and you can carve the plaster with that. Any kind of knife edge. The butter knife also you can carve into the plaster with. And there are all kinds of small sculpting tools. This one has a rounded end and a little sharp knife end, so maybe for carving smaller details, smaller tools would work. And anything like even, this is a flat head screwdriver. You can use that for carving into the plaster. There are wood chisels. These are wood chisels. They're very sharp, and most of the tools you can just push through the plaster for carving. You can push with your hand and carve into so with a really sharp wood chisel, that works. This is a small loop tool from ceramics again. It's got little metal straps on the edges. That'll work for carving. And when you work on a bigger piece, you could use a hammer. This is a hammer and a rubber mallet. Either one, if you want to get a little more push behind the tools for carving. So that might help also. Okay, so lots of choices for carving tools, something you have around the house, kitchen knives, small kitchen knives. And same thing applies. We've got the bigger plaster form down here. We're going to take that out of the box. So we expect the cardboard to stick to some of it. So I'm just going to cut through the tape. And we'll see if we can tear off the outer box. Oh, see, this one's coming away nice and clean. It was a different kind of cardboard than that small one that stuck to the surface. So this is coming out much easier. The box is wet now from the plaster. But with a little bit of effort, you can get all of this cardboard removed. This part's sticking a little more. And then you'll have a nice solid block. You can figure out what kind of design. You can draw shapes on the outside. And then you'll proceed with whatever carving tools you have on hand. And most of the time, the plaster's soft enough that you can just push with your hand. If you want to tap it with the hammer, you might find that a little bit easier on the big piece. So that's just getting started after you've poured the plaster. And that's it for now. Bye.